As long as there have been global muckrakers, there have been obstacles that global muckrakers have faced. Sometimes regimes have been really repressive and they haven't been able to do the journalism that needs to be done. Other times the reporting's taken place, but muckrakers haven't had an impact for whatever reason. People haven't been able to get the information that they put out, or society hasn't been able to change. Part of this course is looking at the conditions where journalism has made a difference and where the muckrakers have really had an impact. And we've looked at a lot of examples where we've really seen that's been the case. But we also looked last week at journalists who cover oil, gas, and mining. We've seen how the obstacles that they face and how hard it can be for them to bring about change in society. So this week we're going to sort of expand on some of that, and we're going to really look at the difficulties and pressures that journalists face more generally around the world today. Both the physical threats, like violence and death, and also the soft pressures, which can be more subtle, but also still very, very destructive. As journalism has evolved, these threats against journalism have changed. Journalists 100 years ago had to worry about their physical safety, about being put in jail, about being prosecuted. Their publications could be seized. They could be killed. They could even be denied the right to even publish, or denied newsprint, or a license to start a printing press. Obviously, in most of the world today, those are no longer problems. However, what's happened is that governments have combined the old methods of censorship and control with the new methods. So in authoritarian regimes, journalists often faced pre-publication censorship. Government censors would actually review what was the newspaper, the magazine, before it went to the printer, and write notes in the margins and say, don't publish that, tell them what to do. Or government censors would draw up lists of forbidden topics and say, you can't cover that. Today, control takes different forms. Muckrakers and journalists face many of these old forms of persecution, but now they face a whole lot of new threats as well. Journalists are still experiencing violence and physical threats. It depends how you rank it, but some would say that probably the number of journalists killed last year was about 70 people. And across the world, there are places where violence against journalists is still pretty common, unfortunately. Brazil, Russia, Mexico, the Middle East, war zones, these are places where journalists are killed every year. In many countries, there are laws that do not protect press freedom, and they allow journalists to get arrested and prosecuted with impunity. There's still soft pressures as well. Countries like China and Vietnam, the government still gives guidance to the media, tells them what not to cover, blocks them, controls them, and now they also do things like online surveillance and control, which makes it even harder for muckrakers to do their jobs. Governments will do all kinds of things. They'll slow down the internet. They'll block websites to make sure that information does not get disseminated. Governments will hire trolls to harass their critics. Places like Russia, China, Vietnam, they pay people to go online and promote the government side of the story. They see a piece that's critical of the government, they will get on there and sort of start arguing and harassing the people who've written it. In the old days, governments used to monitor the mail, the letters that people got. Well, today they filter and they monitor emails. They surveil social media and cell phones in order to see who journalists are talking to, who their sources are, who they know. They'll go ahead and make arrests based on this surveillance. The really scary part, the software that governments use is widely available and can be bought freely. There are companies all over the world that are making the software, and governments are able to buy it. It's almost harder to control than before, where you sort of knew what the government was doing and you knew who was doing it. Now you can be surveilled, followed, monitored from all sides. Of course, global muckraking journalists are taking all kinds of precautions. They're doing whatever they can to protect themselves. But despite those precautions, they face grave dangers. These are the kinds of subjects that we'll be discussing this week with several experts who are working to help journalists protect themselves around the world.